Test, test. Somebody has these turned down. Test, 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 test. The speakers in here are set up on the wall plate, so they're set up for the
Yeah, well, we can hear you
for over there.
on the mic now. Yeah, did somebody have it turned down?
These are turned down here.
Yeah,
You can hear me over there.
I could hear you tapping, coming through the computer, yeah.
Gotcha.
Of course, it's not gonna, there's nothing going out, so we don't hear you on the monitor. But on the computer, if we get it through the computer, yeah, that's
This has got mic one.
And then this
Okay.
yeah, well, go ahead.
The iPad, when you first go in, it's the same thing as opening up an iPad. You got to flip up to get to the display.
Well, let's, we'll let Bruce come over here. Well, we did hear you. I heard you tapping there. And I did, the last program we had, the Jazz Rumble, Lawrence set the mics up and they were good. And we had, after fiddling around over there, we had good output going out for that program.
Test, test.
I wonder why these.
Test, test, test. I think they are.
Well, maybe they're on, but they're not.
What I came into is when I couldn't get it to work, that board was straight across. Somebody had taken it all straight across, and it was really out of whack.
Yeah, and we got to get that pulpit mic working too.
Pulpit mic was working.
Yeah, I mean the volume and stuff for Sunday.
I had it working. I had Tracy in here, and we went through the whole system.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Testing, testing, testing. Yeah, you hear it over there. I'm not hearing it in here now.
Yeah, we can't get it through. Can't get it through these speakers.
He's got the option up for the sound for the over on the wall plate over there.
It's modulating up there too. You can see it modulating. There's nothing going up.
I know.
Well, now sometimes if you those, as far as these output settings, they should be just left alone.
They should be left alone. Yeah, I had it all set up and it was working, but it's telling me this is coming off of the laptop and not. It's not letting the speaker go through. And that's what I don't get. Oh.
Oh, the power supply. Yeah, okay.
Gearing up.
There you go. There you go.
I'm used to the amps, and the amps aren't there. That's the amp.
Yeah, that's the amp for all of them.
Test, test.
Yeah, see, I think that's.
Well, that's where you adjust here. So when you go into the system, you have to open up the application. The application will come up usually right away.
Let's start from scratch on this.
Well, I don't know if I can turn this iPad off. It goes to sleep. Yeah. Let's see what happens if I take it out. You want to turn the system off.
Okay.
Okay. So you do have to turn that on first.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And then it's just touching it.
Or just touching it, then after that.
And that brings it
bring
up. If it goes completely out to the sleep screen, you have to initialize it, and then it'll go to that screen, and then you initialize it by tapping it again. So anyway, that gets turned on first.
Right.
Your microphones, obviously.
Right.
This is your sections, and right here, center right and center left is going to be in here. So you can actually turn off front or back of this section in the middle,
Oh, it's the front and the back.
just by muting it. Test, test. That's the outer edges.
Okay,
If I take them down in volume.
okay.
Test, test. Test, 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 test. Test, test. Test, test.
Okay, now if you want to cut, say, the one on the end, just that one off. Can you do that?
Test, 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 test. So on this one here, test, test, test. Test, test. See, it's dead.
Yeah.
So that's this section here. Test, test. Okay. Test, 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 test. Test, test, test. You're saying that's too loud? Because before, when Tracy was in here, he said that wasn't loud enough over here, and boosted it up, and left it over to be boosted a little bit. Test, test, test. Sounds clear? Test, test, testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, 1, 2, 3. That's just here. Now I'll get rid of that. Test, 1, 2, 3. So everything's dead. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, 1, 2, 3. That's just the front.
Just the front.
Mm-hmm. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, test. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, test. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, test. I can't really tell. I mean, to me, it reverberates all the way through, you know. And one bank makes it sound like the whole room's on, but it's not.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to tell.
Test, 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 test. Then you can hear it.
Okay.
Test, test. So anyway, if we take them.
To get them all on, you just cross them, yeah. So they're all on now.
So those are the volumes. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test, test.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay,
that's
now.
just microphone 1.
Okay, now if you want to adjust the other microphone, you could do the same thing without affecting the setting on microphone 1.
I have the settings on the microphone.
I'll tell you what, I
For a long
got
time, but
the Jazz Rumble the other night. I checked, it was, once I got the sound set up over there going out, I went upstairs in my apartment and listened to it, and it was good.
now
Very
that's after I set this up. Because after they got done on Friday, when did you do that jazz thing?
Tuesday night,
Okay.
Lawrence did some adjustments, you know?
Well, I hope he didn't do any adjusting. I set this up on Monday because they told me about the issue they had on Sunday. They had it on Friday evening. I guess it was when the guys came out and finished on Friday with the system. And they showed us what they were doing, how they set it up. And I came in on Monday morning because the whole weekend Matt was here, and he said they had all kinds of trouble. They couldn't get it to run. The cord on that unit has to be plugged into the wall, but the longer cord that was plugged into, it was bad. So now we're using a different one and plugging it in. That has to be plugged in at the hover cam in order to work, for the hover cam to work, but not for the microphones. You don't need that. So they work. So that'll eventually will be a wireless, and you can just move that all over the room.
Oh, okay.
So those parts have been ordered.
Yeah.
They've been ordered.
Okay, that's what Matt meant when they had a part of
Yes, so for right now, that's gotta be plugged into that wall jack. This one over here is non-functioning
Doesn't work,
anymore. It was supposed to be plated off, we'll end up doing that. But they were supposed to plate that
So that
off.
has to be off of the wall mic too, W2, the one that they use for the pulpit. So they have to use, or the other one. You said the wall jack.
No, okay, for the hover cam.
Yeah, for the hover cam.
So for the hover cam, that has to be hooked into the HDMI at the left of the stage.
Oh, okay.
That jack over there.
Okay, not the pulpit.
No, the pulpit mic just gets plugged in and that works fine.
Yeah.
And I adjusted that too, and if you want, I can pull that out and I can show you, that's working great too.
Oh, I take your word for it.
Well, I want it going into the weekend just so it's done.
Yeah.
So I know.
Yeah.
And then the display, the movie issue they had, that was that hover cam, that HDMI cable was bad. So it wasn't working correctly with the unit, it just failed. So there's another one to plug that into. Now, you come in here for this one, like I said, this is the microphone, this is the adjust for the speakers in a room, or if you want to shut down different areas. So I know that's one of the things you talked about before. You had that control with the individual amps.
Yeah, all we did was flip off one of the
Right.
amps, that's all.
Right, but
Because we had 3 different amps, one for each section.
so agree, that sounds pretty good though. Test, test.
Yeah.
And you're good over in there because you don't have to have that on when you're just directionalizing over to there. So your sound works good
Well,
on
it's
there.
coming over to the computer over there.
That's
right?
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It feeds straight through without turning even that amp on. Because you heard it before I had that on.
Yeah, we heard you tapping.
So,
right.
okay. So now, right now, this is all set up for the wall plate. So this is for the hover cam.
Well,
So,
I don't care about doing the hover cam because I'm not gonna do it.
okay,
I'm not messing with that.
well, so the hover cam, if I set it up for there, I'll just run this through you anyway, just so you see it. So that's the hover cam, but that's the wireless connection, which is not tied in yet.
Yeah, so.
That's getting tied in. So what it is, I'm gonna change this, the video and the audio. Right now, it would be set up for the wireless, so from that unit, anything coming across the speakers is coming across from the wireless setup. This is the hover cam setup here, when I'm going to plug it into that wall plate. Now, when it's in the wall plate here, you'll see over here it still says hover cam. So I'm going to touch that and change it to the wall plate. So now,
So what is the hover cam?
that is that piece right there.
That's that, yeah.
So for any of your programs, your movies, a lot of the movies that we have, they're coming across on like the Netflix and all that, that's all downloaded onto that. So that does basically your streaming and stuff for your movies and all that kind of stuff. Anything that they do as far as the display, they want to put it through a computer. You have apps on the computer, you want them up on the screen, that's what they use that for. So that would be, if you're hitting that wall plate for now, this is the setup we need to use that with. That would be into that jack, the HDMI jack to the left of the stage. And then once that's plugged in, that's turned on, you hit that for the display, and then this is the display on, and that's gonna turn on the projector.
Right, you have to run the hover cam through the projector. It has to project.
Correct. So that's
Yeah.
display on, so I should hear that thing open and I should see something coming up on the wall if I'm projecting from the hover cam. You want it burning out. So it's on right now, and if you listen, you'll hear when I turn it off.
You can hear that slide shut, yes.
Yeah, once it's up and open. They're set up because, again, people are saying, oh, you got to get really close to talk.
No, you don't.
If I'm here, you can hear me speak?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too loud.
No.
Okay. So if it is somebody who is not as loud as I am, they go a little closer. But they shouldn't have to eat the microphone to do it. So I tried adjusting it at that point.
It seems like it's coming out plenty loud.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, the problem is you have to.
Test. Testing. Testing. Leave it hung on your ear and then turn it up as you go. Testing. 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 You don't need to go to the full volume.
No.
It gets loud.
Oh, yeah.
It's much better than ever was. Testing.
Very good.
Testing. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. You don't get the feedback, and like I said, I balanced it out, and it sounds good in all the different areas. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.